everyone, welcome back to another video. Today's going to be a little bit of a more exciting video because I'm going to be making my first diorama ever to build for this little house that I made in the last video. And I'm also going to be working on making vegetation or leaves, it's called flock, for free. So the first thing I'm going to do right here is building a idea on foam board. I ended up scratching that idea and just going on some styrofoam. So here I'm drawing out some lines, cutting out those lines, and just giving it more of a rock texture. It's gonna be a little mountain with the little house on top. I also wanted to have a little river, a little waterfall, so that's what I'm making right now. And I am just texturizing everything a little bit with the styrofoam. So now I ripped apart a tissue, just like separated it from the layers. There's two layers in a tissue and I separated them. And I went over that with some diluted PVA glue and I just sprayed it. And I just added layers upon layers, just filling out all the holes. And by doing this, you'll get a nice rock texture, I guess. Because I didn't use a hot wire, it's very, the styrofoam is very bubbly. So this will just make it all nice and even and smooth it all out. So on top of this little mountain is going to be a little merchant, tavern, hotel guy standing there with his little house. I had the idea to make a teeny farm and just add a lot of vegetation. So that's what I want to do, and that's why I'm starting to paint it all with gray. I painted the whole thing, then realized the color didn't look good, so then I repainted it with black and then went over it again with gray to kind of point out. I don't know, it just made it look a little bit better. The colors are a lot more, I guess, popping. And the rocks especially look a lot better. So this was, yeah, it was kind of stupid I didn't do that beforehand. But, you know, I've watched videos and people always start their dioramas off with a white background, basically. And I should have known. But it's too late now. So I just painted over that with a whiter color to create rocks, and green and brown to create more of a vegetation, lively nature look. So now it's time to make my own flock, as it's called. And how I'm going to do that is by using some tree cat litter. Doesn't matter what tree, it has to be 100% tree. This is pine tree. And you will see that if you put this in the water, it will turn into basically big sawdust. And that is kind of what people use a lot of times to create their own flock. Except this is obviously a little bit different, so you're gonna just want to put that in the water, let that soak up well. Obviously this needs a little bit more water because the litter chunks are still pretty big. And then once it's all mixed together, you can go out and paint it. We're not going to dry it as of yet, we're going to paint it first. Now I'm just going to go with a green, basic and easy. But there's a lot of other options you can do. I will also be doing a brownish one that makes for the farm area. And of course you can go nuts with this. You can make pink for blossom trees, or more of a orange-red color for autumn, or fall, or anyways, it's now time to let this dry. I've heard you can bake it. I personally just let it air dry. Just putting this in a little box and just leaving it over a hot fan for a couple days. That's the trick as well. And after that, you can, if you want, coffee grind it or blend it. I don't know if you can reuse the blender or coffee grinder again for food afterwards, so maybe just use an old coffee grinder. And once you blend all that, you will have a finer texture. So after blending, you should sift out the finer parts and sift out little bigger parts, and then you have long big chunks left. So you can see there's quite a big difference between the grinded flock in the box than the one in the spoon. Anyways, that's the flock. Now that's all done, we can continue with our diorama. So as you can see, I painted the whole thing with a rock color, and now I'm gonna add some browns and some greens just to give it more of a natural vibe, I guess. I just wanted to make sure that if you could see through the flock and the vegetation, it wouldn't just be black. So I found this nice stick that I found outside, and I cleaned it, dried it, and Mod Podged it. And this is the other piece of flock I was talking about that just looks kind of like weed, honestly, like dried out farm-ish stuff. And I'm gonna stick the flock in there, flock that I made by gluing it and then spraying it with diluted PVA glue. So here we're having the little house, and I'm gonna stick that in so I can kind of see what I was looking, where I want it. So here I'm doing the same, and I also added some flowers through the whole thing. I just added some dried flowers that I got from miniature kits. A lot of pinks, yellows, greens, and some blueberry bushes, some strawberry bushes, and just give it more life, I guess. So now it is time to add the little river, and I did this by using a clear piece of plastic that has already pre-pressed, I don't know, pattern into it, and we'll also be adding a piece of plastic for the waterfall itself. It's just bent and cut up a little bit. And then to cover up the whole plastic part, I'm going to be using cotton and some Mod Podge just to... where usually it doesn't foam at the top of the waterfall, but this was the only option to really hide it. So, and it worked fine, so it doesn't look too obvious. I also added more vegetation using like stones and little moss I found outside. I just let everything dry and cleaned it. So here I'm adding the last little details to the house itself, which if you haven't seen the last video, you should definitely watch it, because this is where I built this little house, this little merchant outpost area. And also how it also shows you how to make the little miniature crates that you can see that I put in the little house. And how I made those with paper, actually. Thick cardboard. So after that's all done, it just needs a lot of drying time. A couple days, probably. But once it's all dry, it does stick pretty well to the diorama. And honestly, it looks pretty cute. So now that we're done, it is time to light up the little bulb in the house, and look at that, we are done. I definitely learned a lot during this process. I made a lot of mistakes and things I'm gonna change next time I'm doing this. But all in all, I don't think it's the worst for the first, especially not for a first try. So if you guys like this and would like to see more things that I do on this channel, more things like this, please leave a like and subscribe as well, so you can stay up to date on new things I made. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye!